I still remember the way the light hit her face that evening, golden, warm, almost forgiving. It was one of those quiet sunsets that made everything look softer than it really was, and maybe that's why I didn't see it coming. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, stirring her tea in slow, deliberate circles. No words, no eye contact, just that nervous rhythm of the spoon against porcelain. Then she looked up and said the one sentence that shattered everything I thought was real. I think we should try an open marriage. For a second, I didn't even understand what she meant. Open marriage. Like we just see other people and pretend it doesn't hurt. I laughed, a small, broken laugh, the kind you give when you're sure it's a joke. But her face didn't move, no smirk, no warmth, just quiet resolve. I love you, she said softly, but I feel like I've been living half a life. I need to explore who I really am. There are moments when time doesn't stop. It just stretches painfully thin until it almost snaps. That was one of those moments. I tried to speak, but my throat closed up. Everything inside me, confusion, fear, disbelief, tangled into silence. She reached across the table, touched my hand, and said it. The line that burned into me forever. I'm not cheating, I'm just finally with someone who appreciates the real me. That's when I realized she wasn't asking. She was telling me she already had someone. The room went quiet. Even the rain outside seemed to stop. My pulse was the only sound I could hear, pounding in my ears, begging for it to be a nightmare. I wanted to yell, to ask who, to demand why, but all that came out was a whisper. How long? She hesitated, and that hesitation was my answer. 6 months, she said, but it's not what you think. He understands me. He makes me feel alive again. Alive again. I'd been killing myself to make her happy, working late, planning weekends, doing everything to hold us together. But apparently that wasn't alive. That was invisible. She said his name like it was a secret she'd been dying to say out loud. Ethan, a name I'd never heard before, and now it was branded on my heart. I wanted to hate her. God, I wanted to, but all I could do was stare at her and think, what did I do wrong? She stood up, avoiding my eyes. I don't want to hurt you, she whispered. I just need to find myself. I almost laughed again. Find herself. She wasn't lost. She was just walking away from the man who'd been standing beside her all along. The tea on the table went cold, the sun disappeared, and before I could process any of it, she grabbed her bag and left. No argument, no last look, just silence and the faint scent of her perfume fading down the hallway. I sat there for hours. No tears, no anger, just emptiness. It's strange. You think heartbreak will be loud. You imagine yelling, slamming doors, breaking things. But when it really happens, it's quiet. Pain doesn't scream, it just stays. That night I walked into our bedroom. Half her clothes were gone. The closet looked like a wound, half empty, still bleeding memories. On her side of the bed, she left her wedding ring, not on the table, not on a note, but on my pillow. Right next to where her head used to rest, I sat down, picked it up, and stared at it. The circle looked endless, but I finally understood we weren't. I tried to sleep, I really did. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her laughing with him, this man who made her feel alive. I kept asking myself questions that had no answers. Was she happier now? Did she ever love me? Or was I just a chapter she was waiting to close? By dawn, the sheets were cold and untouched. My phone buzzed, a message from her. Please don't be angry, I just need some space to breathe. You'll always be special to me. Special? That word felt crueler than any insult. I didn't reply. I just placed the phone face down, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark. And somewhere in that silence, something inside me cracked. It wasn't anger, it wasn't hate. It was something deeper, the quiet breaking of a man who still loved someone who no longer loved him back. Soft pause, faint ticking clock sound. That's how it began, not with a fight, not with a goodbye, but with a single sentence that erased a lifetime of promises. I'm not cheating, I'm just finally with someone who appreciates the real me. And I knew then nothing would ever be the same again. I still remember the light that evening, warm, golden, tender in a way that almost lied to me. It painted her face like something sacred, something safe. Maybe that's why I didn't see it coming. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, stirring her tea in slow, rhythmic circles. The spoon tapped against porcelain, steady, nervous, almost rehearsed. I thought she was just lost in thought. I had no idea she was about to end our marriage with a whisper. She didn't look at me at first. Her eyes were fixed on the cup like she couldn't bear to see what her words might do to me. Then she spoke. I think we should try an open marriage. The words hung in the air like smoke, impossible to grasp, impossible to breathe. At first I laughed. A small, uncertain laugh that didn't even sound like mine. I thought she was joking. But she wasn't. Her lips trembled, but her eyes were steady. I love you, she said quietly. I just feel like I've been living half a life. I need to explore who I really am. Time didn't stop, it just slowed down until it hurt. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The hum of the refrigerator, the rain outside, even the distant sound of traffic, everything faded. It was just me and her and that awful sentence between us. I tried to speak, but my voice broke halfway. Why was all I managed. She reached across the table, her fingers barely brushing mine. Her touch was cold, almost apologetic. I'm not cheating, she whispered. I'm just finally with someone who appreciates the real me. That's when my heartbeat turned into thunder in my ears, already with someone already gone. The words sliced through me, quiet and merciless. I searched her face for any sign of guilt, but all I found was peace. Like she'd been carrying this secret for months, and now it was finally off her chest. I swallowed hard. How long? Her silence was the answer before the words even came. 6 months. 6 months of smiles I thought were mine. 6 months of late nights at work. 6 months of me holding her hand, not realizing someone else already was. He understands me, she said. He makes me feel alive again. Alive, like everything before him before this didn't count. I couldn't even cry. I just sat there watching her pack her courage into every word, as if she were convincing herself that breaking me was an act of self-discovery. She said his name like a confession and a relief at once. Ethan, I didn't know the name, but I knew in that instant I would never forget it. She stood up slowly, hands shaking, and whispered, I don't want to hurt you. I almost smiled. Too late for that, the light outside dimmed, turning the room into a slow-fading photograph. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, lavender and rain. She grabbed her bag and walked out the door without looking back. No goodbye, no closure. Just silence. I sat there long after she left, staring at the tea she'd stirred but never drank. The spoon had stopped moving, but the echo of its rhythm stayed in my head. People think heartbreak is loud. That it comes with shouting, crying, breaking things, but it's not. Real heartbreak is quiet. It sits with you in the dark. It listens to the sound of your breathing and waits for you to collapse. That night I walked into our bedroom. Half the closet was empty. The air felt wrong, hollow, unfamiliar. On the pillow where she used to sleep, she'd left her wedding ring, just the ring, no note. A silent full stop at the end of a long sentence. I picked it up and turned it in my fingers. The circle was perfect, endless. But that's the lie of rings, isn't it? They promise forever, even when forever ends quietly on a Tuesday evening. I sat there for hours, phone buzzing beside me, messages I couldn't bring myself to read. When I finally looked, it was from her. Please don't be angry, I just need some space to breathe. You'll always be special to me. Special? That word hurt worse than anything else. Because special isn't love, it's a eulogy. I didn't reply. I just turned off the phone, laid the ring beside it, and let the silence swallow me whole. In that silence, I realized something I never wanted to admit. She wasn't lost, she didn't need to find herself. She just wanted to be someone else, and I wasn't part of that version of her. A long pause. The faint sound of rain returns. That's how it began, not with a fight, not even with tears. Just a sentence that quietly erased everything we'd built. I'm not cheating, I'm just finally with someone who appreciates the real me. And that's when I knew. I was about to find out what heartbreak really sounded like. When she left, I thought I'd never hear from her again, but the truth is she never really left. Not from my head, not from the places she touched, not from the life we built that suddenly felt too big for just one person. Music fades, replaced by the hum of distant city noise. The first few days after she walked out were strange. The apartment still smelled like her, jasmine shampoo, soft fabric, the faint sweetness of her perfume that lingered in the air like a ghost. I kept expecting her to come back, to open the door, to say it was a mistake, but the only sound was silence, the kind that stretches until it starts to echo. I tried to keep busy. I went to work, ate when I remembered. Pretended to sleep, but everything I did next to an absence. Her side of the bed stayed empty. The coffee maker only brewed 1 cup now. Even the sound of my own footsteps felt too loud, like they didn't belong in what used to be our home. It's strange, grief isn't one emotion. It's a dozen smaller ones that keep changing shape. Shock, anger, loneliness, hope. They take turns wearing your skin until you forget who you are without them. About a week after she left, I opened my phone just to hear her voice again. Old voicemails, laughs from a year ago, her saying my name in that soft, sleepy way she used to when she wanted to stay in bed longer. And then I made the mistake of scrolling through her social media. Her profile picture had changed. She was smiling, really smiling, hair tied up, sunlight behind her, and standing next to her was him, Ethan. His arm around her waist, her head tilted toward him like she'd found the place she belonged. The caption read, "New beginnings, learning to love freely." I just stared at it for a long time, not angry, not jealous, just empty. It's one thing to lose someone, it's another to realize they didn't lose you, they just moved on. I remember sitting there, thumb hovering over her name in my contacts, wanting to text her, to say something, anything. But what do you say to someone who already replaced you? So I didn't. I just locked my phone and sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the quiet creak of the house breathing. Soft rain begins again, slow, rhythmic. Days turned into weeks, the seasons started to shift, and life somehow kept going. I started walking in the evenings, not to think but to stop thinking. Sometimes I'd find myself outside places we used to go, the small Italian cafe she loved, the park bench where she told me she wanted to grow old with me. I'd sit there watching strangers pass by, wondering if they knew what it felt like to become invisible in your own life. Then one evening she called. Her name lit up my screen and my heart stupidly skipped a beat. "Hey," she said, "hey. I just wanted to check in, make sure you're okay." I lied, yeah, I'm fine. She hesitated. I could hear the background noise, laughter, music, a man's voice faint in the distance. Her new world bleeding through the phone line into mine. Ethan and I are going away this weekend, she said. He thinks I should stop feeling guilty about everything. He's good for me. There was pride in her voice, relief. She didn't even realize how deep that sentence cut. I'm glad, I said softly. You deserve to be happy. Silence, then a quiet thank you, and she hung up. I sat there holding the phone long after the call ended, listening to the empty static hum. I think that's when something inside me started to shift. The pain wasn't sharp anymore, it was dull, constant, almost familiar, like a bruise you stop noticing until someone presses it. For months, I'd been trying to understand why she left, what I could have done differently, but the truth was simple. She wasn't looking for better, she was looking for new, and that realization hurt more than anything else. Soft piano returns, melancholy but calm. I started journaling, writing down the things I wanted to tell her but couldn't. Some nights I'd write entire pages about how much I missed her laugh. Other nights I wrote about how much I hated the way she made me feel small. There's something strange about love, it doesn't end cleanly. It leaks into everything. Your mornings, your habits, your silence. Even after she was gone, she was still everywhere. Then one night I ran into a mutual friend, Megan. We hadn't talked since the separation. She looked uncomfortable at first, like she didn't know what to say, then she sighed. I saw her the other day, she said quietly. She looks different. Different how? Tired, distant, like she's pretending to be happy. I didn't know whether that made me feel better or worse. Megan leaned in a little and whispered, between us, Ethan isn't who she thought he was. He's controlling, jealous. I didn't respond, I just nodded. That night I sat on my porch looking at the stars, wondering if she was staring at the same sky. Maybe she was realizing the same thing I did months ago. That freedom doesn't always feel like peace. Sometimes it just feels like loneliness with prettier lighting. Pause. The sound of wind chimes in the background. A few days later, she texted me, "Can we talk?" My heart didn't know whether to race or stop. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying, "Sure, when?" No answer. Just three dots that disappeared, then silence. That was the moment I knew something was coming, something I wasn't ready for, because when the person who left you suddenly wants to talk again, it's never just to say hello. It had been almost 4 months since she left, 4 months of learning to breathe again, 4 months of quiet mornings and even quieter nights. By then, I'd stopped checking her social media, stopped waiting for her messages, stopped imagining her footsteps outside the door. I had almost convinced myself she was gone for good. Until that night, 3 knocks, soft, careful, familiar. I froze, because sometimes your heart recognizes someone before your eyes do. I opened the door and there she was. Her hair was shorter, her eyes swollen. Mascara smudged just enough to show she'd been crying for a while before she even got here. Her clothes looked expensive but wrinkled, careless. She smiled, that nervous, trembling kind of smile that carries too many apologies. "Hey," she whispered, "hey." For a second, neither of us moved. The rain behind her made a soft halo in the porch light, and for a moment she looked exactly like the woman I used to wait for. But something was gone, something deep. I stepped aside. "Come in." She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. The house still remembered her. Her scent seemed to awaken from the walls, the way old perfume does when the air shifts. She looked around. Everything was the same except the photos. I'd taken them down. Her eyes lingered on the blank spaces where our memories used to hang. "You took them down," she said softly. "Yeah." She nodded, biting her lip. "I deserve that." She didn't sit, she just stood there, twisting her hands together. I didn't know where else to go. The words came out fragile, almost childlike. "Ethan," I asked, her face cracked at his name. Her eyes shimmered, and that's when the tears finally fell. She choked on the words. He wasn't who I thought he was. I didn't move closer, didn't comfort her. I just stood there, listening, every word both healing and hurting at once. At first it was perfect. He said all the right things, made me feel seen, alive, adored. She laughed bitterly, but then he started changing, controlling, accusing me of things I never did. I couldn't breathe. She wiped her cheeks with shaking hands. I thought I was running toward freedom, but I was just trading one kind of cage for another. I didn't say anything because what could I say? Part of me wanted to reach out and hold her. Another part of me wanted to ask why she hadn't realized this before she destroyed everything we had. "He hurt me," she said quietly, "not physically. But he broke me piece by piece. I kept thinking maybe it was my fault, like if I just loved him harder, he'd stop being angry, but he didn't." Her voice cracked completely. "And then one day I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself anymore. I missed you. God, I missed you so much." The sound of those words hit something deep inside me. For months, I had dreamed of hearing them. Now that they were real, I didn't know what to do with them. "Why are you here?" I finally asked. She blinked, startled. I just needed to see you, to say I'm sorry." "Sorry for what?" She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time, she didn't hide behind excuses or self-discovery or pretty words. For choosing him over you, for believing the problem was you when it was me. For breaking something I didn't even know how to fix. I felt the tears burning behind my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Because somewhere deep down, I knew forgiveness doesn't mean return. I walked to the window, staring at the rain sliding down the glass. Do you love him? She hesitated. No, I thought I did, but what I loved was how he made me feel wanted at first. And when that faded, I realized the person I really wanted to talk to was you. I closed my eyes. Those words should have healed me, but instead they felt like salt pressed into an old wound. You know what hurts the most, I said quietly. It's not that you left, it's that you didn't even look back. She stepped closer, voice trembling. I was scared. I thought if I looked back, I'd change my mind. Then now I wish I had. Silence filled the space between us. Heavy electric, she reached out, fingers trembling, and touched my hand, just that, a small, broken touch that carried years of history. For a moment, I almost forgot everything, the betrayal, the loneliness, the sleepless nights. It all melted under the warmth of her skin, and then just as quickly it all came rushing back. I pulled my hand away slowly, not out of anger, but out of survival. She looked down, tears falling freely now. I understand, she whispered, you don't owe me anything. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that she still meant something, that I still loved her even after everything. But love, I'd learned, isn't always meant to save. Sometimes it's just meant to teach. I took a deep breath. You can stay. Pause. But just for tonight. Her lips quivered, she nodded. We didn't talk much after that. She slept on the couch, curled up under the blanket I'd kept folded for years, the same one she used to wrap around herself during storms. I lay awake in my room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of her breathing. And for the first time since she left, the house felt alive again, but not the same, never the same. When I woke up the next morning, the house was filled with the kind of silence that doesn't hurt anymore. Just stillness, calm, fragile, almost peaceful. The sun was slipping through the curtains, painting soft gold across the floor. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel that familiar weight on my chest, just quiet acceptance. I walked out into the living room. She was still there, curled up on the couch under that old gray blanket, her hair messy, her eyes puffy from crying. She looked small. Not the woman who walked out on me, full of certainty and hunger for freedom, just human. Her eyes fluttered open when she heard me. Morning, she whispered, morning. I poured 2 cups of coffee, the way I used to, and set one down in front of her. She stared at it for a moment, then smiled softly. You remembered. Some habits don't die easy, I said. She nodded, holding the cup with both hands like it was something precious. Steam rose between us, blurring our faces for a second. And in that moment I realized I wasn't angry anymore, not because what she did was forgivable, but because I was tired of carrying it. Forgiveness isn't permission, it's release. I thought a lot about us, she said quietly. About what we had, what I ruined. I didn't say anything, I just listened. When I was with him, she continued, I kept waiting for that moment, the one where I'd finally feel complete, but it never came. Every time he smiled at me, it felt wrong, like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. Her voice cracked. I told myself you were the problem because it was easier than admitting I was broken. Her honesty hit me like sunlight, warm, blinding, impossible to hold. I'm sorry, she whispered, not just for leaving, but for not seeing you when you were right in front of me. I looked at her for a long time, and for the first time since she left, I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I saw the woman I once loved, flawed, lost, trying to find her way back to herself. I believe you, I said quietly. She blinked, surprised. You do. Yeah, people make mistakes. You did what you thought you needed to do. I can't hate you for that. Tears filled her eyes again. Does that mean there's still a chance? There it was, the question I'd both feared and secretly longed for. I looked down at the ring sitting on the coffee table, her ring. The same one she'd left on my pillow months ago. It had sat there ever since, untouched, a reminder, a scar, a symbol of what used to be. I picked it up and turned it slowly in my fingers. Once, I said softly, I thought love meant never letting go, but now I think maybe it's knowing when to. Her breath caught. So this is goodbye. Not goodbye, I said. Just peace. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks as she tried to smile through them. You were always the better person. No, I said, shaking my head, just the one who stayed. We both laughed, then soft, broken laughter that somehow felt like healing. She stood up slowly, clutching her bag. At the door, she turned back. I hope you find someone who never makes you doubt your worth, she said. And I hope you find yourself, I replied. For a moment, we just looked at each other, 2 people who once shared everything, now sharing one final silence. And then she stepped out into the morning light. The door closed behind her, and with it, a chapter I'd been afraid to finish. I stood there for a while, staring at the empty space where she'd just been. Then I smiled, small, real, unforced, because the truth is letting go isn't losing, it's choosing yourself. Soft piano returns, gentle, hopeful melody. That night I sat on the porch again. The air was cool, the stars faint. And for the first time, I didn't wonder where she was or who she was with, I just breathed. And in that simple act, that quiet, steady breath, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time, peace. Pause, the music softens to a final chord. She asked for an open marriage because she wanted to feel alive. But in the end, I was the one who finally learned how to live again. Feel alive. But in the end, I was the one who finally learned how to live again.